Morning all and welcome back to a new National Hunt video. Of course, the flat season is now finally over. We've got the Melbourne Cup is on Tuesday morning, but apart from that, we can now finally say goodbye. The Breeders' Cup is done, the Irish flat season is done. Now they're on to the winter racing in Dundalk, which I suspect as punters we should be staying away from. So that being said, just as at the moment we're still not quite there in terms of the big national hunt races. We had the JNY Champion Chase on Saturday, and we had a good card at Down Royal on Friday and Saturday, and obviously at Wetherby as well, to give us a few clues. But I'm going to be running through 10 national hunt horses to follow. I did this on the flat earlier in the season. It was actually, I looked back on the horses I mentioned just the other day, and it was a very mixed bag. Like I said Latrobe, who's gone on and won the Irish Derby, and then I've said, horses like Lightning Quick, who's Steph, that really haven't kind of progressed as perhaps they should have done. But anyway, that's going to be the same here. I'm just naming a few horses, obviously trying to avoid the main ones. I'm trying, I'm not going to come out here and tell you, Altior, Bouverdare, Fahine sort of stuff. And anybody can do that. So I've tried to put a bit of effort into it in terms of looking at horses that I think might go slightly under the radar in terms of the stable they're in, or perhaps they're just one of the smaller stables, bigger horses. And we're starting off that our 10 at the Gavin Cromwell Yard in Ireland. Obviously, a trainer who's showing his exploits on both jumps and flat now. He had a great winner at long jump at Arc weekend, and he's got some good horses for over jumps. And the one I'm going to plumb for here is Espoir d'Alain, the forgotten juvenile, I suspect. Everyone keeps going on about how well will these juveniles do. We Have a Dream, Apple Shakira, Mr. Adjudicator, Farkless. And you forget, from an Irish point of view, that at Christmas time, Espoir d'Alain was by far the best of these. And he bombed out of the Leopardstown Racing Festival. I'm not sure what happened that day. Maybe it was one run too many in a short enough space of time. I'm not so sure. He is a 4-year-old going in to open company, so it's always going to be hard. But I saw an article pretty recently saying that Cromwell, I think, is targeting the Fishery Lane hurdle at Naas on Saturday. I think it's either this Saturday or this Sunday as his potential target, because it's a 4-year-olds only race. I think this horse is a forgotten horse and perhaps could pay away to follow him and see can he progress into a good looking hurdler. Also, another 4-year-old will be our second one, comes from the Dan Skelton Yard, and it's a Nube Negra, the Spanish-bred horse, who came third in the Fred Winter behind Veneer of Charm. Now, that Fred Winter, I suspect, wasn't the greatest race we're ever going to see. Let's face facts. But this horse shaped very well and was well backed and well fancied going into the race. So there's obviously a bit of thought behind this horse. And then came 5th in the Grade 1 juvenile at the Aintree Festival. It's sticking over hurdles as you'd expect for a 4 turning 5-year-old, and I think Dan Skelton has earmarked the Greatwood hurdle at the November Cheltenham meeting as a potential starting block for this horse. Again, I think over handicaps, sometimes these juveniles, when they go into open company, and it's handicaps, not grade 1s, they can sometimes get a lenient enough mark. This horse is currently rated 135. I think he can improve at least £10 for that by the end of the season. So let's hope he can do so and turns out to be a good handicap hurdler. The next one comes from the David Pipe stable, and David Pipe's been pretty quiet recently, actually, in the last couple of years, seemingly not quite having the big horses. I was very taken, though. He had a winner at the Aintree Festival last year called Mr. Big Shot, who's been a very difficult horse to train, seemingly. Has had very few miles under the belt. Came back after a layoff to finish 10th, I think, in the Martin Pipe handicap hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival, and then went on stepping up to 3 miles in a handicap hurdle at Aintree and won really well. And was well back that day, so obviously they expected big things. He's going novice chasing this year, according to David Pipe's stable tour, and I think he could do well if, touch wood, they can keep him healthy. The next one comes from the Noel Mead stable, and at the moment Noel Mead can do no wrong over here in Ireland. He's banging in winners left, right and centre. And one of these was Brace Yourself at Down Royal in one of the maiden hurdles. But you only have to go watch the race. This horse was mucked about by a loose horse pretty much for a mile and 6 of the 2 miles. And still managed to win. He showed great guts and great determination. In the post-race interview, Sean Flanagan had already earmarked that this horse was well touted within the yard, and of course won a bumper at Down Royal by 25 lengths last Christmas. Went on to finish third in the winner's bumper then at Leopardstown, won by Black Bow, a very good horse in his right, and perhaps, he could do well at novice hurdling. Maybe not a Cheltenham horse, but one to keep an eye on for Irish novices. The similar applies with this horse, actually, who comes from the Joseph O'Brien stable. Very similar form lines. It's Rhinestone, who was a very good bumper performer last year, winning at, I think, Roscommon, beating Sancta Simona, who's come out to be a listed Mayor's Novice Hurdle winner this year for Mullins, by 19 lengths. That's half the track at Roscommon. He then went on to finish second to Black Bow in that bumper and then finished ninth in the champion bumper. Perhaps that was a little bit of a step too soon for him. I think he's got very similar credentials to Did They Leave You Out Too over in England, but I've gone for Rhinestone because I know the form line's that bit better. And I think Joseph O'Brien thinks this could be a really good horse and one that you should be watching out. Then the Gordon Elliott yard. Who do you choose? They've so many good horses. And I've plopped for Mengley Khan, because he's going to be a good novice chaser this year, I think. He was a good novice hurdler last year and came third in the Supreme and then third in the Supreme equivalent at the Punchestown Festival. He's a very good horse and he ties in with good form lines in terms of Somerville Boy and Kalashnikov. Everyone's saying Kalashnikov is a near uncertainty for the Oracle. But is this horse going to improve chasing? I think Mengley Khan will. You could perhaps say that about Kalashnikov as well. But Mengley Khan looks a chaser. He's a massive horse. You should see him in the parade ring in Ireland. He is massive and surely will make up into a good scopy novice chaser and one to perhaps look out for in the Arkle market. We then move on to Jessica Harrington. It's number 7 on our list. And this is probably the most straightforward one of the lot. Because I think Sizing John is, again, it's like Espoir Dallin. He's the forgotten horse of the Gold Cup. He won it the year before last, beating Native River, beating those types of horse, beating Jackadam, all of them. Now, Jackadam's obviously retired, but I feel Sizing John has just been completely jettisoned just because of one injury and one bad run at Leopardstown. If you take that away, this horse is still an absolutely quality animal. Will be seen, I think, probably closer to Christmas, perhaps over a more minimal trip. Maybe the John Durkin again over 2-4, or maybe in the Christmas chase at the Leopardstown Christmas meeting. But the Gold Cup is the target, and Sizing, we all know his ability. But can he reproduce it after an injury? I'm not so sure, but I'm willing to take a chance that he could well do so. Then we go on to Willie Mullins. You could pick any from Willie, to be fair, but I've tried to stay away because I know I mentioned Album Photo carefully selected in my Cheltenham anti-post tips. I didn't want to pick them, I wanted to pick somebody else. And obviously the news yesterday, Douvan is going to be out for the season, and that's obviously disappointing. I'm Douvan's biggest fan, but he seems destined to not fulfil his potential. This is another horse that's had his injury problems, but he's an absolute flying machine, and that's Great Field in the McManus colours. He flies out in front. He's a terrific 2-mile chaser. Jody McGarvey, it's his big horse, and he gets on so well with him. His novice chase campaign 2 years ago was absolutely phenomenal. I think he won 3 races by a combined 60 lengths, and all were graded efforts. Came back last time out, ran once last year at Navan. Can't remember the Webster Cup it was actually, and he beat Dr. Phoenix. Now Dr. Phoenix was a horse for Gordon Elliott, really on the improve at the time, and beat him well, considering that was his first run for ages. He'll come back this year, and hopefully, again, if he stays sound, could have a very good year in the 2-mile chase division. Then the last 2 from Henderson and Nichols, both staying novice chasers, both with similar enough credentials, I suppose. The Henderson horse I've gone for is Santini. I backed him in the Albert Bartlett last year, and he ran a good race. Obviously, it was disappointing not to win, but he ran a good race to come third. But I was even more taken by his Aintree Sefton Novice's performance, where he really dug deep. He showed guts, he showed character, and he showed that ability to stay. And I think they've always banged on with this horse about how he's going to be a better chaser. And if he's going to be a better chaser than Hurdler, this guy surely is going to take top rank in the RSA division this year, and is certainly one to keep an eye on. Similar enough for Paul Nicholls here. This is a horse that also placed at the Cheltenham Festival in the Coral Cup. Top of the game is my staying novice hope for the Paul Nicholls yard. And he's similar to Mengley Khan. And I haven't seen this horse live, but even seeing him on the TV, the horse is absolutely massive. You can't get over how big he is. And therefore you feel Hurdles surely isn't getting the best out of him, and chasing, as Nicholls has already alluded to many a time, will be his game, and one to certainly look out for. Now there's 10 National Hunt horses to follow. Some of them obviously are going to be more are going to end up doing better than others. Some are more obvious than others. But hopefully I've steered you in the way of some horses that can either win handicaps or potentially win Grade 1s at the end of the season. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below. I really would appreciate it. And also, who are your horses to follow this year? Try not give me the main ones. We all know Altior is great. We all know Bouvardere is great. Try and keep it a bit different to that. Give me the horses you think are going to pay their way in this year's National Hunt season. I'm excited to get going with this season. I hope you guys are too. I'll see you guys next time. Best of luck.